For this is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. As we continue to observe our 138th year at 8th Street Baptist Church, we bring you greetings today. And we look at the 118th Psalm today, the 22nd through the 24th verses. And it says, the stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. And this came from the Lord. It is wondrous in our sight. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. For a few moments, we're going to discuss the subject, is Christ your cornerstone? The Israelites did a lot of singing. They worshiped God through song. And the songs were important because they memorized words preserved during the foundations of their faith. We as African Americans love to sing. Singing songs of hope and faith carried us through many years of torture and slavery. Our forefathers would sing, I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on Jesus, or I'm not going to let anybody turn me around. And the congregation of Israelites who also endured 400 years of slavery did not have the luxury of the written word of God. You know, that dusty book on your coffee table. Only the high priest had access to the Torah, which were parchment scrolls that contained the first 5 books of the Bible, plus Psalm and Isaiah. So the only way folks like us to remember the tenets of our faith in biblical times would have been to memorize the songs that will memorialize our beliefs. And these songs were known as the Hallel. They're still sung today in Jewish synagogues all over the world. And this particular Hallel was a popular Passover song of celebration. And of course, today, they have the benefit of a Hallel songbooks in much the same way that we have our own hymn books. Songs are celebrations, but they do more than just release within us a spirit of celebration. They also affirm our faith and give credit to the Lord. And our 3 focus verses in our sermon today zero in on the purpose for the Israelites' songs and remind us what is expected of us as worshipers of the Lord. First, you got to check your building. And the psalmist writes, the stone which the builders refused is become the headstone of the corner. And if I have any builders that are listening and watching today, they understand the importance of getting the cornerstone right on a building. The cornerstone has to be placed on the exact spot on the blueprint, and then cut to perfection in order for the plumb line to be straight. And if you get it wrong, the whole project will have to be scrapped. Excuse me. And there was a group of church members building a new sanctuary, excuse me, to replace the old one that had burned down. And a member of the church was a qualified builder, and he was hired to build a new edifice. And it was to be a simple project to construct. The cinder blocks went up quick, and they looked good until it was time to put on the roof. Excuse me. And they discovered that the roof could not be pitched correctly because the cornerstone was cut wrong and the building was not plumbed. Not wanting to lose their money by scrapping the project, the builder came up with a strange-looking sloped roof that made the new church look like a house that Jack built. But the biggest surprise came when the city engineers certified the building for use by the congregation. And I'm wondering whether or not the Lord certified the cornerstone. That's what the psalmist's song affirms, that the cornerstone builders rejected because the head's cornerstone, or the capstone, as it was called, did not match. And so the Lord has taken their stone and made it the capstone of his rule on earth. It was a perfect analogy for a nation who was in the midst of rebuilding their temple after a 70-year Babylonian exile. They knew that despite persecution, despite rejection, despite attacks from other nations, they were on the right track because the Lord himself was their cornerstone. Who is your cornerstone? Jesus is our cornerstone. But knowing that Jesus is the cornerstone of the church and accepting Jesus as the cornerstone of your personal faith in God are two different things. For example, you can worship in a beautiful church and never donate a dime for its maintenance because you feel you have no personal responsibility for maintaining your cornerstone. You can put a Bible on your coffee table in your home and never crack it open because you don't feel a need to know your cornerstone. You can listen to hymns and songs during worship service and never bother to learn the words because you don't feel and you don't see the need to worship your cornerstone. And it sounds sad, but you would be surprised how many proclaimed Christians fit those descriptions. The Israelites were singing because they knew their cornerstone. They trusted their cornerstone. They lived by the covenant of their cornerstone. And when a builder completes a project, what's the first thing he does? Well, he puts a sign on the front that reads, "This building is the project of such and such a builder." And the builder takes all the credit for the new building. Forget the fact that much of the work was framed out by somebody else. And the builder never laid a brick or a stone. He never hammered a nail or drove a screw. He never mixed the cement or laid the roof shingles. And private experts proficient in their field did all the work. And the builder was just the overseer of the project, but takes all the credit. And the Israelites were careful to acknowledge that though the Lord chose to covenant with Israel, they were not the builders of this great nation. And that designation belonged to God, and God all by himself. Sure, they were the Lord's arms and legs for the execution of all that the Lord had commanded them to do. But it was not their victory. It was the Lord's victory. And the psalmist's song was on the right track. It helped the Jews remember God's work on their behalf. When was the last time you acknowledged that if it had not been for the Lord on your side, where would you be? Some Christians have had a problem. They have the I problem. The I problem. I did this and I did that. And at the very least, we should say, Lord, and I, and the Lord did this. And I was just his humble servant. Instead, we get a new car. And we said, I worked hard for this vehicle. We get a new house and say, I was able to qualify or save for this. We get a new job and say, I earned this promotion. We got to learn to credit where credit is due. To God be the glory for the things that he has done. Third, we got to celebrate our blessings. And the psalmist right. This is the day the Lord has made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. Rejoicing is an expression of appreciation. We need to celebrate our blessings by saying thank you to the one who blessed us for 138 years. And what did the Israelites have to celebrate? Well, it was their Passover halal. They were remembering how the Lord had brought them out of slavery in Egypt, how the death angel passed over their homes and killed the firstborn of Egypt. They were remembering how they crossed over the Red Sea and watched Pharaoh's army drown behind them. They were remembering the manna in the wilderness that kept them from starvation and the thirst-quenching water that poured from the rock of Kadesh. They were remembering how the Lord was with them in a cloud by day and fire by night until their 40-year journey in the wilderness was over and their feet were placed in the promised land. But forgive me for just a moment. Sometimes I wonder how Christians can worship God in silence when you think about all that God has done for us. We've seen him put food on our table. We've seen him make a way out of no way. We've seen him lift us out of despair and depression. We've seen him make our enemies our footstools. And why do we sometimes come into church, sometimes angry, sad, disappointed, distracted, impatient, and detached, when we ought to come in with praise on our lips, thanksgiving in our hearts, because the God we serve promises that no weapon formed against us will prosper? Can we do a little personal assessment today? Can we each take a moment to check out and see who have allowed to be the cornerstone in our lives? And then we acknowledge him as our Redeemer and Deliverer. Celebrate the many things that we have received at his hand. I didn't hear a lot of celebrating going on, but Jesus just wants a thank you every now and then. And if you can say anything else, just say, thank you, Jesus. Thank you for seeing our shame and removing it. Thank you for seeing our trouble and curing it. Thank you, Jesus, for seeing our turmoil and calming it. Thank you, Jesus, for seeing our burden and lifting it. Thank you, Jesus, for seeing our weakness and strengthening it. Thank you, Jesus, for seeing our emptiness and filling it. Thank you, Jesus, for fighting our battles. And if Jesus is your cornerstone and you want sure footing, if Christ is your cornerstone You have to help when you're helpless. If Christ is your cornerstone, you will be rescued when you are falling and failing. If Christ is your cornerstone, you will be protected when you're battling a problem. If indeed he's your cornerstone, you will be revived when you're exhausted. If he's your cornerstone, you'll be lifted when you've fallen. If he's your cornerstone, there's no problem that he cannot solve. If he's your cornerstone, there's joy in the morning, following a dreadful midnight horror. But I stopped by to remind you today that he went to an old rugged cross. He bled and he died on that rugged cross, gave us a blood transfusion. They laid him in a borrowed tomb, stayed there all Friday night, all day Saturday and Saturday night. But early on Sunday morning, he got up with all power in his hand. Will you make Christ your builder? He will use your soul as his brick and mortar. He will use your heart as his wood and nails. He will use your talent as his paint and roofing. He will use all of you, and he never fails. Offer yourself to him today and watch how he can build a new you. 8th Street, don't forget where the Lord has brought you from, what he's done for you. It's 38 years ago, few years out of slavery, brought us from a mighty long way, and he'll carry us into the future. Keep your eyes on the prize. Keep your eyes on Jesus. Keep your eyes on the cornerstone. The blood still works. Let us pray. Gracious and merciful Heavenly Father, thank you for being our cornerstone. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to lean and depend on you. Because, Master, we know that without you, we are absolutely nothing. And we just ask, Father, you continue to be with our church, continue to be with us as individuals, as Christians, as believers. And, Master, let us look to you, the cornerstone of our lives. And we ask it in the precious name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.